Welcome to the Jen Cares Powered by Chozen Live podcast, a podcast that brings the community to you. Each week, we feature a guest that will help us stay in the know. We are here every Monday at 8 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, comment, and share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, here's your host, Jen Cares.
Well, good evening and welcome to Jen Cares, powered by Chozen Counselors. I am your host, Jen Cares, the founder of Chozen Counselors, a nonprofit organization that seeks to inspire, motivate, empower, and strengthen individuals and families. As always, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in, for liking, for commenting, for supporting, and coming back again. I appreciate each and every one of you. I must do this disclaimer right now. Sinuses jack me up. The weather is beautiful. I'm not complaining about it. Thank you, God, for this weather. But those sinuses got me and took my voice away. But we're going to get through. We're going to have a good time tonight, all right? I hope that you enjoyed last week when we had Darnell Johnson talking about wake up. Friends, we got to wake up. Whatever it is that we have purpose in our heart to do for ourselves, not just this year, but for our life, whatever goal we have. I'm working on the second edition of our book, the journal. And I started talking about bucket lists. What are some things that you have purpose in your heart to do? Friends, we want to wake up to be able to do it. We can't say that we manifested and we're not doing nothing. That was such a good topic last week. That manifested me getting me too, because you can't manifest something if you ain't doing nothing. You got to work at it. You can't just speak it. You got to have some actions with those words. Somebody tell you that they love you and they don't treat you that they love you, you believe that they don't love you. So it's some actions that have to come with those words. So I do hope that you enjoyed last week for Wake Up. Who, friends, tonight is a hot topic. You know, I got some water in case I got to put out a fire. Our firefighter guest had told us that we got to stop and rock with it. So if it gets too hot, just stop and rock with it, okay? Because tonight we're going to talk about Jesus and therapy. Before I get there, you know, friends, guess what? Dun, 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 dun. Tonight is our 100th episode of Jen Cares. Woo! Yo, I'm truly, truly grateful. I am honored to have been able to do this 100 times. This has been amazing, and I hope that it has been amazing for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning in. Dun, 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 dun. So that's the first things first. We're excited about 100, but we got to keep on doing the work. First things first, tonight we have Dr. Marcie Rolle. I met this amazing girl on LinkedIn. She is a friend indeed. I love her spirit. You're going to love her tonight. It's going to be amazing. Amazing. So help me welcome my friend, Dr. Marcie, for Jesus and therapy. Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am excited, just grateful, one, that we were able to get you in the books, because Dr. Marcie is a busy bee that's doing work in the community to help and encourage other people. And I'm just excited for this topic of Jesus and therapy.
Right. I'm excited too. Very excited.
Yes, thank you. So over here at Jen Cares, we always start with a quote of the day. Today's quote of the day is, "It's okay to have Jesus and a therapist too." Let me say that again. It's okay to have Jesus and a therapist too. What are your thoughts on that quote?
Oh my goodness. Well, the Bible does call Jesus the wonderful counselor. And so I think it's important to understand that when you're thinking about that, you're getting the idea of what a counselor should look like through Jesus. So why not lean into something that should mirror the heart of Jesus? And that's therapy. So I don't know. I really like that quote.
Calls him the wonderful counselor.
Wonderful counselor, mighty God, Prince of
Mighty
Peace.
God,
Okay.
Prince of Peace. Okay. So if he's a counselor,
it can't be nothing bad about the process.
it can't be nothing bad about the process. Come on, somebody. This is
right.
good already, Prince, because if he's the counselor, okay. Friends, I have always, prepared some questions and things to guide tonight's topic. But if you have any thoughts, be sure to drop them below. Share your thoughts about Jesus and a therapist, okay? Because we can have both. Dr. Marcie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So I am Dr. Marcie. My full name is Marcella Rolle, but my family and friends call me Marcie. And so I am originally from the South. I'm a Southerner, born and raised, a new transplant here to the Philadelphia area. Interestingly enough, my mom's from Philly, so it's really full circle moment. I'm living like 2 blocks from where she grew up, which is so cool. I'm a therapist and I'm an educator. I was just telling Jen that education is really my heart. I absolutely love teaching and training new therapists, but I'm also a licensed professional counselor here in the state of Pennsylvania. That's a new thing that I just added because I didn't know if I was going to get licensed in PA, but the Lord had other plans. So that's been a blessing as well. So I do see clients occasionally, but my focus is in teaching. I teach currently at Missio Seminary, which is a small seminary in Philadelphia. That's been really helpful to bring together a very diverse group of students to learn about both seminary as well as counseling. So that's a little bit about me.
So good. I'm raving about Dr. Marcie being a teacher because I remember when I was in school, sometimes the teachers that I had for social work and therapy, unfortunately, did not have the street knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so cool that she has the street knowledge to be able to apply it to the classroom, because we could go to school, but if we don't really know how to apply that outside of school, we'll be lost and we'll feel ill prepared. So kudos to you of being that teacher to help future therapists, future whatever it is that they pursue, whether it is therapy, social work, science,
you can do so many things with
so many different things, to help to equip them for what the real world does look like. Even growing up, because let's start here. Because even growing up, we have in our mind of what it is. I can't wait till I'm grown. Friends, being grown. I wish I could take those words back. There were a lot of things that I did learn in becoming grown and in the real world. And that's a little bit of what causes us to need a little bit of therapy. Mm-hmm. Y'all see where I'm going?
Right. That's a good segue. I like that.
We try. We brought up in church, a lot of us, or somehow we find Jesus and he's amazing. But sometimes the things we see in our homes or on the streets, in the neighborhood, in our schools, causes us to scratch our head like, well, what's going on? And sometimes we need somebody to talk to. A lot of times we were taught what happens in this house stays in
the house. Yes.
And there's some things that are happening in our houses that we want to address, that we want to get some help with. And we could go to Jesus, but he also uses people. I could go to Jesus and say, God, I want to be healed of blah, 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 blah. But he has people who have become doctors and trained that have studied to be able to heal us in those areas and help bring aid to those areas. In that same name, because we hear a therapist has gone to school to prepare themselves to be able to help talk you through things you have been through. So tonight I have some different myths that we think causes us to not go to therapy or whatever it is that we put in our minds. You share some down below that you've heard so we can bring that up in conversation too. Because we're going to debunk some myths. And we're going to be Mythbusters? We're going to bust them because too many times things are happening where we could have got some support with,
Yeah.
And before I get into that, this has been on my heart. I've been waiting for this episode because different things have been going on in regards to like people taking their lives and like life, is my term of what happens when you get overwhelmed in things. And I wanted to talk about how when somebody takes their life, it does not mean that they don't love you. There's a conversation going on within themselves that they can't overcome. And you want to be able to talk to somebody. Because I've seen posts where they say, they didn't know that I loved them. They didn't know that I cared. They look so happy and things of that sort. But we all have these battles that we're going through. At any moment, unfortunately, that could be us. So we want to be able to talk to somebody. I know that you love me. I know that you care for me. But if I can't get through the hurdles that I got going on, if I don't reach out, I'm drowning and I don't reach out to get that support from that professional that can help me get through. I may succumb to that water.
Very powerful. I almost feel like you were in my house around about lunchtime because I was having a conversation with a friend about this very thing. I said to him, I said, one of the things that I think is often overlooked is that we are not all created the same. We
Yes.
do not have the same resilient factors. We do not have the same bounce back in us. We do not have the same upbringings that might have, you could have grown up in the exact same house and not inherited some resilience traits. Or get this, you handle trauma differently.
Come on.
Let me tell you right now, me and my brother and sister all handle trauma quite differently. But you said such powerful things and just talking about it. So I really want to lean in and just remind people, and this is going to be kind of heavy, maybe controversial, but I'm prepared for it. If a person has deemed in their mind to take their life, they are going to take their life. You cannot, what you did or what you did not do cannot change that. Does it mean that you don't offer them help? No. Does it mean that you don't pray about it? No. But what is going on in the mind as it relates to that level of hopelessness, I pray that you never experience that. Have I dealt with people who have had thoughts about it and I've worked with them? Yes. And we were able to get through it? Yes. But the power of death is just as strong as the power of life. And so I think it is really, really important for us to note that there can be people that exist in the world that don't have that bounce back that you have. And the absence of it doesn't make them less than, and it doesn't make you more than. But just as you said, Jen, it doesn't mean that they weren't hearing you and don't know that you love them. It just means that they didn't have the capacity to understand that.
Yes.
I do believe wholeheartedly that is an area in which we do need the miraculous hand of God,
yes.
As well as therapy, but the miraculous hand of God to deal with whatever may be missing. Because while as therapists, we can offer tools, we cannot replace that lack of hope that's missing. And so I love the idea of combining those together to see, what God can do through us as therapists to bring healing in those situations.
And friends, in that, God uses people. So if we're frustrated because our mother wasn't around, if we're frustrated because our dad wasn't around and we're battling those things, God sends somebody sometimes to be that mother, to be that father, to be that mentor, to be that person that could lift your head up. So be open and receptive to the good that's around you trying to help you. Because again, we can't make it on our own. We do need people. I know we say, I don't need anybody, but I need somebody that's out there on that farm growing that lettuce. Give me that bacon. Give me that chicken. Give me the cotton to have these clothes. We need other people. Other people make those things. Even if we're making it ourselves, somebody else first produced it. So we do need people. So knowing that if somebody's around trying to help us, go ahead and reach out. And I know we've been hurt. We've been disappointed. We've been brokenhearted. But I promise on the other side of that, there is somebody that does care. There is somebody that does love you. There is somebody that does care for you and wants to help you to get to a greater end if you open up and communicate with them. Here I have the number for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, dialing simply 988. If you know somebody that is struggling or you want to have more support to be able to help them, go ahead and call that lifeline to be able to support them, friends.
Yep.
Yes. So yes, we starting heavy. Why? Because that's how important this is.
That's life, though. Life don't pull no punches. Life starts off quite heavy first thing in the morning. So absolutely,
because that you come out and that doctor smack your booty, you be like, wow.
Okay, and you know that some researchers perceive that as one of the most traumatic experiences of our life, birth, and our mind does a healing process to allow us to forget that. Imagine if we remembered all of that, right? That's kind of what it feels like when people hold on to trauma. It feels like their mind is not working to eliminate what might be helpful for them. And so they just live in it all the time. So life is happy.
Life is happening. When we try to figure it out day by day.
That's right.
But you said a word, and I always want to talk about it when it is brought up, because we talk about how everybody doesn't have the same bounce back. And when we talk about trauma, most commonly, what I consider to be traumatic, you might not consider to be traumatic.
That's
what you consider to be traumatic might not be traumatic to me. So somebody yelling, screaming, cussing, and fussing, oh, that's just the normal. That happens in the hood. Not the hood, neighborhood is what I'm saying.
Neighborhood.
Good neighborhoods, bad neighborhoods, in between neighborhoods, churches, business hoods, where they hollering and yelling and cackling and doing those things, okay? So in that, being able to identify what trauma is. So what would you say your definition of trauma is?
Oh, girl. Was this question on the list? Well, I feel like I'm not prepared, but you know what? I know the answer. You know what? Trauma in the simplest form can be, and go with me here, unexpected change, an unexpected shift. Now, we can break this down and get really technical, which I may in a minute, but I want us to kind of sit in that for a moment. When there's an unexpected shift in your day, how many of you go ahead and panic? When there's an unexpected change to your check, who's having a panic? That in its in its simplest form. And so I think it's important for us to understand that at its base level, because then we can stop overlooking what might be traumatic for a person. So imagine this. Imagine you have a child who's used to things going a certain way, and the teacher switches up that classroom and they start misbehaving. It's important that we lean in. What's shifted? What's changed? This is not your normal behavior before we label them a bad kid. That was traumatic for them. Yes. You also have things that look like complex trauma, right? So that's trauma over long periods of time in various different forms. So you're experiencing 3 to 4 different things, maybe poverty, maybe divorce, maybe abuse. And on a long-term basis, you have complex. You have relational trauma, which is sort of this idea of living with the same traumatic experience over a long period of time. And then you have simple trauma, which is not simple in the way that we understand it, but simple in that is a singular act. So maybe a car accident might be simple trauma for you, or a one-time sexual abuse instance. But all of it is a shift in your norm. And so how we notice it as therapists is we notice that you are starting to engage with life quite differently than what is your normal. Not my normal, not society's normal. We've had to walk away from that. But what's your normal? So if we notice you don't hang out with the people that you used to hang out with, or you're not engaged in the things that you used to enjoy, we may start to explore, have you dealt with something that was traumatic for you? A large move, me moving from Georgia to Pennsylvania, was a traumatic experience for me. Absolutely. Right? So those things essentially change from our norm can be traumatic.
Absolutely. Let me put a disclaimer out there for Dr. Marcie friends. Your words can be used against you. So that's how I can pull in some of the words that you say that might not have been in the pre-planned script. Thank you for that. Disclaimer over. But unexpected friends, unexpected things that happen can cause trauma. It can cause you to feel off your game. You know, if you knew in your mind that you was going to fry some chicken and you got home and you didn't have no oil, it can be traumatic. Especially when you was just at the grocery store and saw the oil.
You need to stop. You're preaching good right now. Don't play with me in that fried.
That can be frustrating to somebody. If it happens a couple of times over a span of times, that can be overwhelming for somebody. What's going on where I can't remember? Because it can trigger something else. What's going on where I can't remember? I know I needed oil. Why didn't I get oil? And we sometimes have these expectations on ourselves and we overwhelm ourselves. We get frustrated. And then we could get into this bubble and this cycle, and we need some help again to get out of that holding pattern. This is good already. I like this. I like this. Unexpected friends. When something
unexpected change,
that could be traumatic. And again, it could be your paycheck not having all its coins can be traumatic for you. But if my check got all its coins, I'm fine. But let that happen to me.
Yes.
How you responded might have been kind of cool collected. I might have been like, I bust the windows out your car. And so I'm in jail. And we got to also remember
that's right.
Our actions have consequences. So being mindful when something does happen that throws us off our game, what plan do we have in place to help us regulate our feelings and emotions so that we don't go off?
And get this, what do you know about your childhood that helps you understand how you deal with change?
Come on.
Did your mom and daddy like change, or did they flip out whenever change happened there? So are you in turn flipping out? What do you know? Have you really set in and start to learn? Those are some of the questions that we ask in therapy. People say all the time, why do you have to ask about my past? I don't know you without your past. You don't know you without your past. And when we run so long from it, we have a harder time understanding how to adjust, how to identify our triggers, how to get better, because we don't know how you just like your grandmother, we don't know, right? So I think that is so powerful because it can help prepare you oh, you know what? I'm going to struggle with A, B, and C because this has always been a thing. Now, get me here. It doesn't mean that you have to speak that thing over your life. Okay. So that's very, very different. You have a lot of clients who kind of know their past and then start to live in it as a self-fulfilling prophecy. But you can know it to start to go down a different path, right? You can know it in the back of your head, but not have to live it out. That's a choice that we get to make. And so I think it's so different to know that two different things can happen with the knowledge of our history and our family and things like that.
Yes. And when you said that, it made me think of the color changing yarn. If you don't Google crafts and things of that sort, Google it and it'll come up. What happens is it starts off with one color and it goes into another color and then goes into another color. Sometimes it goes back to the first color, then another color and things of that sort. And in our lives, this was good, God, in our lives, we start off with one situation, but things change and it affects us to change it to a different color. But we got to go back to what the original was to find out why the change first happened. If we're good with the change, or if we needed to stay where we was before. And in therapy and talking to somebody and processing through our, stuff, we find out what those different colors was, what the different changes were. When I went from first grade, then I went to second grade, then I went to third grade, and I found out, wait, I can't be the teacher's pet no more because I really have to focus and find out what's going on or whatever it is that's going on. We go through different changes.
That's good.
And we want to know what caused that change. Was it a good change? What is it, the chameleon that changes and adjusts to each environment? Some of us don't do good with that. No, I'm going to be green. I know it's black, but I'm going to stay green because that's what I want to be. And sometimes we want to find out, well, what's going on when you can't adjust? Because sometimes we do have to adjust or, work out what needs to be worked out.
Really
we can't
important.
be stubborn.
That's right. That's right. And I love, first of all, I love that analogy. And also, I just need to know, do you know the color is about to change? Is it ombre or you don't know? Because for those of us that have control issues and my clients included, we need to know what color is coming next so we can properly prepare, okay? Because if I don't know, that can be traumatic for me.
It can be. And if I can be prepared of knowing that a change is going to come, what did I do to prepare myself knowing it was coming?
That's right.
I might not know what color it's going to be, but I know good and well after I done paid all my bills, something's going to happen. So what next aid do I have to help me so there's not a traumatic experience?
That's right.
I'm not overwhelmed, that I'm not ready to throw in the towel and say, you know what, forget it all.
Yes. And that is exactly how it happens. And I speak from experience. I was just saying to my dad earlier today, my dad is a minister. So when he gets into that pulpit, he preaches his best. He does his good preaching when he's preaching from things that he has overcome himself. And I say the same thing. I do my best counseling when I'm counseling from something I've overcome myself. And so when I'm dealing with clients that I can see they're panicking because they don't know what's coming, I have to really think about, okay, Marcie, you've been here. You know what that panic looks like. How do we lean in? And I think you said something really powerful. It is possible to prepare even when you don't know, right? That's when we do things like have a cushion, have a savings, have a therapist, have these things for those unexpected things that are sure to come our way. Have a savior, right? So I think these things become so important to think about as we're thinking, so somebody may be asking, but if it's unexpected change, like how can I prevent the trauma? You may not be able to prevent it being traumatic for you, but you can prepare for what steps to take as you walk through the trauma, as you walk through the grief, as you walk through the anxiety. And I think that's the beauty of having therapy in a space like this.
Yes. And because the title is Jesus Ain't Therapy, I get to talk about Jesus a little bit more today.
You did.
I do. Because even in church, if things are going well, it doesn't mean we stop praying.
Sure.
We want to pray because something else, the enemies were like, wait, you too happy, Jen.
You got to have your vocabulary ready. Okay. I pray so my words are ready. If we are trying to defend our home and maybe somebody's not coming, do we have an unloaded gun next to our bed, or are we ready? Okay. Like if we're in our car and we know we have a long way to go, are we going with a quarter of a tank, or are we ready? It's the same thing. When we pray, that strengthens our vocabulary. Because when the enemy comes in, get this, that's the comma and the pause, like a flood, the Lord lifts up that standard, but we can enact that flood with our words if we've been praying. If we've been praying. And I think another great way to strengthen that vocabulary is also in therapy. You know how many adults I talk to that don't know how to access emotion words? That's why they can't tell you how they feel.
Come on.
You know, Black women, child, listen, we get in trouble for often bashing Black men. They don't know how to tell, they can't tell us how they feel. Do you know how you feel? What are the emotion words that you're using? Have you figured out your vocabulary? These things, prayer, counseling, this is how we strengthen our vocabulary, right? You were talking about manifesting earlier and using our words. You ain't going to have no words to speak into the atmosphere if you've not been preparing. You've not been getting yourself together, getting battle ready, as they say. So, yeah.
And when you said that, you know, even after you do know what you feel, I am frustrated, I am overwhelmed, I am angry. It's still a secondary emotion. Why am I frustrated?
Yes.
Why am I overwhelmed? Why am I angry? What happened to cause me to get to this place?
That's
so
right.
if it happens again, I could be ready, locked and loaded to handle that situation, so I can go forth on whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing.
That's right. Absolutely. You're talking about that iceberg. I know we've all seen that picture of what the iceberg looks like. All you see on the surface is the tip, but normally it is massive underneath what we need to identify. And so Jesus and therapy truly does chip away at the tip of that iceberg and gets down to that underneath. And listen, it's going to be painful. It's going to be uncomfortable, but discomfort is where we change. Discomfort is where we grow.
Marcie, can I share? With Jesus, it gets painful.
Yes.
With Jesus, it gets uncomfortable. But it's all for our betterment.
Yes.
He's doing those things to make and mold us to be that which he wants us to be. But it's sometimes even that we still got to talk like, God, I still don't understand why this is happening like this. I don't understand why my mother did this, why my father did this, why my grandmother did this, why it's still happening in generations and generations. And if you're trying to break a generational curse, baby, come get on the couch right now.
Yeah, that can't be done in a silo. I can tell you that right now. That can't be done by yourself.
It takes some work. It takes a process, but guess what? It's worth it. You got to believe in yourself.
Oh, it is. It really is. Wellness, wholeness, it's worth it. Yes. It's worth it when you wake up in the morning and it's quiet in your mind. Yes. It's worth it when you walk up into your house and it rises up to meet you with a spirit of holiness. It is worth it when your relationships are healthy and there's no toxic people. It's worth it then. And those things are possible because you and I both.
It's worth it when there's no toxic. What? Say this again.
When you ain't got no toxic relationships.
When they're healthy.
When they're healthy.
There are so many examples right now. I'm not even going to say those babies' names where it's toxic and we know that it's toxic. But what happens is we gravitate towards that because we're used to that. We're comfortable with that. But guess what? What if I said there was a better way? What if I said there was a better way? What if I said you didn't have to go to hell? You can go to heaven. There's a better way.
There's a better way. I will say in those situations, these are probably some of the most heartbreaking stories of clients that I've had because many people, Jen, and I know you know this, they don't even recognize that what they have is toxic. They think that's the best they can get.
They think that's the best they can get.
Yeah. They think that nobody else will want them. They feel like they've either reached the pinnacle or this is all that my value can access because they have devalued themselves in such a way. Yes. So there's all of that you have to do first. Before I can even introduce you to the fact that there are healthy relationships, we got to deal with what you think about you because this has a lot to do with what you think about you. So, and I'll say to them, it's so funny because they're so thrown off. We're not going to talk about him for probably the first month to 2 months because we need to talk about you.
Yes.
We need to talk about you.
Yes.
And so I think that has been so life-changing to really sit and spend time with you. And I think, again, that's what counseling offers. It's also what that relationship with God offers for you to just clean up you. Focus in on you because we give out of our overflow. But But so many of us is giving the crumbs from the bottom of the thing because we ain't got nothing else. We ain't been poured into. We ain't replenished. We give out of our overflow, which means you must be full first. And then the community reaps the overflow of your fullness.
Of your good communication.
Of
your investing in yourself. Of your health.
Right. That's right. But
because
anything less than that, we're not operating optimally. We're not operating optimally, not in the kingdom, not in our community, not in work, nothing. Because out of the abundance of what God gives us is how we are able to enrich the kingdom. So I must even speak parents, wives, husbands. If you are not operating out of abundance, it's time to do your work. It's time to do your work because listen here, and I'm going to speak to couples real quick. The miracle is not 0.5 plus 0.5 equaling 1. That's math. You don't need to come to a relationship half of a person. The miracle is 1 and 1 equaling 1.
Yes.
So you're looking for, if you want to say to me, Dr. Marcie, what does it mean to have a healthy relationship? It is to come whole before any person, romantic, friendship, pastor, what you don't need to be looking for somebody to complete you, to fix you. This is not Jerry Maguire. This is life. You have got to come whole. And wholeness is possible through Jesus. And he equips us over here, especially for those of us counselors that are following the example of the wonderful counselor. He equips us to just help you on that journey. Simple as that. But wholeness is what we're looking for.
And with that, we can have Jesus and a therapist too. So let's get into some of these myths, okay? Here we go. Talking to a therapist is for people who are weak and who don't have enough willpower. We should solve our own problems.
That sounds like a person who's weak and don't have no willpower saying that. No. That's a really, really good one. And I want to take it seriously because I think it is still really heavy in our community, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, it's preached from some pulpits. We got to be careful.
You're right.
I think what is important to know is that specifically counseling, we operate from what's called a wellness model, right? Yeah. So counseling, I like to compare to the dentist, right? You should be coming to the counselor or to the dentist to maintain. You really don't need to be coming to us once them gums are bleeding and we struggling. You can come, but the process will look differently. But therapy, counseling is not designed to pathologize or to diagnose. It really is designed to help you maintain, to help you identify maybe things that you might not have seen. So no, it does not require you to be weak or without willpower. It does, however, require you to be vulnerable and humble, the same posture that you have to have in front of Jesus. Definitely. So if you are equating vulnerability with weakness, then you may have a skewed perception. I personally believe that vulnerability is a willingness and a readiness to change and to grow. So yeah, that's how I say that. Also, can't none of us solve our own problems. I've tried. I've tried.
Songwriter said, there is no way I can live without you. I have tried over and over
Preaching.
and over and over, but I found that there is no other way.
So if that's what you out there doing, I'm sure you're tired. And what I'd like to offer you is some reprieve. That's it.
Oh, here's another one. Yes. Only crazy or mental people need to talk to therapists. I haven't lost my mind. I'm not having a nervous breakdown, so I don't need a therapist.
Yeah, that's a really, really good one as well. And again, most of the time, people who have lost their mind or crazy are not seeking us because they don't know anything is wrong.
Right.
So I commend clients who come early because it's important to know that you need to know something's wrong. Mm-hmm. You don't want anybody to be committing you. Mm-hmm. You want to be able to choose this for yourself. So, so I say that to say there's a space in counseling for those people who truly feel like they've lost their mind and have had a nervous breakdown. But there's also a space for people who can freely walk into there and choose it. And there's power in that. There's power in making that choice on your own, because here's the rub. If you don't make the choice on your own, you may be the very person that you talk about. You may eventually get there, because at one point or another, life will weigh on you. And so it is important that we are surrounding ourselves with people that can help us and pour into us. So that's my response there.
Very good. Here go another one. Therapists will encourage me to do things against my religious beliefs.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. And so I don't want to be a person that says, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Maybe, because first of all, religion and spirituality are two totally different things. Second of all, if you're doing something religiously that's harmful for you, then we might challenge that, right? But if we're just talking about, will a therapist say, don't go to church, don't read your Bible? We have an ethical code. And our ethical code governs us in making sure that we respect how a person shows up culturally. A part of that culture is their religion, right? So we are mandated to be quite respectful. So if you find yourself in a space where you feel as if the therapist is violating you in that way, then you have every right to report them, to fire them, and to find another therapist.
Thank you. Talking won't help.
Right. Have you tried?
Come on.
Have you tried it? And for the longest time, I don't like Brussels sprouts. I don't like Brussels sprouts. And then I tried them. I'm like, okay. I guess I never tried it. Right. And also, it might not. You can tell your therapist that. I can guarantee you they are prepared for that.
Yes.
So I encourage you to it's okay. Y'all, it's okay to take that mindset into therapy and to look at your therapist and be like, yo, I just don't even think this is going to work. Right? Because we are prepared. We are trained for that. Jesus is trained for that as well. And so for those of us that are walking with Jesus, we're prepared for that. And we understand it. Many of us have been there. So try it. See where it goes.
And, I want to challenge, because, again, it's Jesus in therapy. So on the Jesus side of that, when we talk to God, have you ever had a conversation with God and it's just you pouring out your heart to him? It's like, I'm frustrated. This is how I feel. X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C, BBD, East Coast family. And then you go about your day and something happens. And it's like, I was by myself when I was talking to him. So me talking and expressing what's going on with me to God, he looks out for me. And sometimes talk with Jesus is needed, but sometimes also talking to somebody else to be connected with some resources. Because in the Bible, you're supposed to let the elders of the church know when you're sick. If we don't know you're sick, how are we going to pray? We're going to pray, but we don't know specifically what to pinpoint. Where you're like, I'm going through and nobody checked on me.
Right.
Tell anybody who was going through. If it's like 1,000 people in the church, it could be hard to keep in contact with everybody. But what happens is when you join a ministry, right? You get with a group, and that person that's over it should be checking in with you to see how you're doing. Hey, sis, I haven't seen you in a while. You doing all right? Hey, bro, you good?
That's right.
You have to be connected some kind of way so that somebody can help you and talk through those things that are going on for you.
And I just want to ask, and this is rhetorical, and just for people who might be watching, what are you doing with the words that you're not saying? Where are you putting them? Are you putting them in your chest? That could be why you have heartburn. Are you putting them in your stomach? That could be why you're constantly sick to your stomach. Are you leaving them in your head? That's why you're constantly struggling with the migraine. That swallowing words, I had a client who couldn't cry because that is where she would put her words. And so I just kept tapping, because it needed to come out. And she said it burns. You can feel it physically when you're holding it. It affects you physically, y'all. Stress is out here killing folk. Knocking them out. Healthy as they want to be, running 5 miles a day. Stress is taking you out.
Yes.
So I encourage you to check, if you're that person as well, ask yourself, where am I putting the things I don't want to say? And can I feel it physically? because those are things that we would also explore in therapy.
This next one is a good one. It says all mental health issues can be prayed away.
Yeah. I think prayed away is the problematic statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Prayed away. The Bible doesn't really talk about things like praying things away. They say that the Lord is just a prayer away. But I think that that is the problematic part. So I say that because I absolutely believe you can receive healing from anything through the power of prayer and your relationship with God. And you might never have seen a therapist, but it does not mean you prayed it away.
Yes.
It means you sought help.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy is just seeking help. If you choose to seek help without seeking a therapist, okay. But we do have to admit that we aren't praying things away. We are seeking guidance. We are seeking help. We are on our knees and ask God, what have you placed here on this earth that might help me? So with the idea of, can prayer help with mental health issues? Absolutely. But you're not praying it away.
Yes.
Seeking help is what helps us with mental health issues. You can seek that through prayer. You can seek that through counseling in your church. You can seek that through a traditional mental health counselor. But I encourage you not to get caught up in this notion that repetitive prayer gets things done, but it is the act of submitting and saying, I cannot do it. I need help. That truly does bring about healing and get things done.
And friends, depending on what the situation is, I can pray about it, but my feelings are still my feelings. And I have to deal with those feelings, right? So I can go in a prayer closet and be like, God, I don't like how John treated me. I don't appreciate it. He better not do no more because it's messing up my vibe and I don't like it. But when I see John, whew,
yep.
Whew, I'm ready to get John. I'm ready to get John. Why? Because my feelings are still valid. So I could pray, but there's still a process that I have to go through of, I'm going to forgive John, or whatever it is that happened, or maybe talking it out with John, processing and finding out, wait, why did John trigger me? Did John even really do something? He could have, but then sometimes he might not have, but it just triggered me from something else that has happened. So being able to talk through something, we just talked about that, talking through some things, processing through some things.
That's right. I'm living witness, and Jen, I'm not sure if you are too, that God will put us through that process. That's why I'm saying that phrase is prayed away is problematic. God is going to hold you accountable. He's going to ask you, why don't you like him? What's wrong? And I don't know about you, but it's easier for me to hear those questions from a therapist than from God, because I just feel embarrassed and it feels like it's too much. So I'm just saying, you can't talk to him if you just that gangster with it and you just like, you know what, I'm going there. But I would rather hear it from like a softer.
My arms are too short to box with God. There's some conversations I had with him, and I feel like he was that baritone father voice, like, Jennifer. It's like, you're right, okay.
I know. And I'm like, why couldn't my mama have told me this? Okay.
Yeah, or did she? And I didn't listen. So then I went to him and I was like, you know what? I got it.
Because you remember the children of Israel, they looked at Moses and they're like, we don't want to see him. Yes. Put that veil over. Because let me tell you something. If you're truly serious about that praying, he will show himself to you, and it might be painful.
It'd be painful.
So he's offering you an easier way through therapy, okay? You don't have to have a veil on. The glow won't knock you out, but you might get the same answer. And so I think it's so important to recognize that you don't get to skip the process either way you go.
No.
You still got to do your work.
Let's talk about this one. I don't need a therapist. I'll just go to church.
Mm-hmm. I'm so confused by the question. Okay. But no, it's a thing. I don't need a therapist. I'll just go to church. And sort of this idea that community is helpful in that way, or just this idea that the pastor is going to say something that's just for me. And I think it is important to know that the pastor in the church is not going to get you to heaven or bring you healing. That is still you. That's still going to be your unique relationship with you, your unique relationship with God. And so you can go to church and feel good, but when you come home, is the weight still sitting there?
Yeah,
Because there
yeah.
have been so many moments when I've gone to church, it's been emotionally high, the spirit has been high, and then I come home to my house by myself and the problem still sits. So I think it's important to know, even very similar to the question that we just talked about, if you're not doing your work or going through the process, nothing is going to work, not even therapy. So you have to be making sure that we're not saying these statements in order to say, I don't want to do my work, which that's the reason why many people are saying this. I don't need a therapist. I'll just go to church. I could just pray away. It's because you don't want to do the work. None of those are going to alleviate the need for you to do the work. So I don't want to knock the power of what a community fellowship can have, but I do know that when you hold yourself accountable to do the work, whether that's in therapy or in your relationship with God, it shifts so much. And church people can be real non-confrontational and not require you to do your work. And you really want to be in a situation where somebody's encouraging you to do your work. And I don't mean judgmental. They can be judgmental, but confrontational in a spirit of love. Are we exhorting you? The Bible talks about exhorting our brothers and sisters. Exhortation is not just praise, it is a call to action. Are we exhorting you to do your work? And so if you're not in a spiritual home that's pushing you and calling you to do your work, then something's wrong, because I can almost guarantee you that a part of the work that they'd be encouraging is to go to therapy. So absolutely take advantage of your church space, but make sure you're also doing your work.
You know, I'm gonna go to the other side for a second on that, right?
Yes.
Because I've been in church a long time. A long time. Been to a couple churches in my lifetime. Been in a lot of atmospheres where they were people from other churches. And sometimes they can be confrontational. And I think sometimes too, there are some experiences that you can have in church that can leave you lacking. You have some people that are in. Yep, we have tough conversations over here. I'm gonna call a spade again. I've been in church my entire life. My mom was a musician, so I've been at different churches. I've seen a different side as well of being a member, being on stuff, just visiting, all of that jazz. And I don't knock the church, but what I'm saying is we are still human in the church, right? And the Bible says iron sharpens iron. So sometimes that person is trying to sharpen you, you don't like that. So yeah, I'm going to church, but if I'm already dealing with my anger and Sister Sue keeps sitting in my seat that don't have my name on it, I'm gonna have a problem. If the usher keeps telling me I gotta spit out my gum, stop chewing that gum, I'm gonna have a problem. And these are surface things that may or may not happen or may have happened in the past, but those small things can sometimes trigger us. So if we're not in the right place, sometimes we can go left. So that's the benefit of being able to have somebody to talk to. Church is amazing. I enjoy my experience there, but I also realize that the people are human. They have the different things that they're going through, and they're trying to make it just like you, make it just like me.
That's very true.
So being open to the flaws of people, you know, sometimes even it's often said of how like you put your pastor on a pedestal, and though they are the bomb.com, they are studying, they are sacrificing their life and things, but guess what? They still bleed. They still hurt.
Yeah.
You tell them to kiss your butt, and they're, you know, on that altar praying for you, calling out your name at midnight, up at 5 when they're trying to sleep, because God has stirred their spirit to intercede for you. Things still hurt too. So again, we can go to church. We just know that when we're going, we want to be as a child, open and receptive to learning again what it is that we need, learning the lessons that we need. But knowing that again, yes, they can be a little confrontational, because if some people rough around the edges, like I had people that came in, they be like, you know, I'm from North Philly, I'm about it. Like, wait, sis, nobody trying to fight. But sometimes they can meet it in jest, but somebody can take it a different way. Like, what you mean? I'm with the blood. Wait a minute now. What we doing? You know? So
absolutely. And I think you're right. I think you're right. And so it's quite possible that I used the wrong word. I think in my experience with church, while we are confrontational in certain situations, we do not exhort our brothers and sisters the way that needs to happen, meaning that we don't ignore elephants in the room that can help make them better. So for instance, go back to that example, you notice that they're always getting frustrated. if you are in a healthy church that's operating biblically, somebody will say to you, you know what? I'm noticing that this is a real struggle for you. How can I support you? How can I help you? But they're going to call you out on it. But many of our churches don't do that. And so then that means that just because the church isn't doing it doesn't mean that you're not responsible, as you said before, for doing your work. And so I don't want us to make a church a crutch and us relying on that to get pushed to do our work, because every church setting is not going to push you to do your work. Most church settings are not going to push you to do your work. So wherever the case may be, whether you're in church, whether you're doing therapy or doing nothing, you have to be doing work, because the absence of doing your work is going to be a dying body, a dying spiritual body, mental body, emotional, and physical body. So I love what you're saying here. Especially as it relates to church, is complicated. I have a complicated relationship with church.
Yeah, me too. But I'm grateful that I remember that I'm there for Jesus. I'll never forget one of my friends. She was like, her goddaddy shared with her, stay focused on the cross. And when you stay focused on the cross, everything else that's speak, Jennifer. Everything else that's happening is relevant, but not relevant. Because I got to stay focused on where my goal is. My goal is to make the heaven. I can't let people get caught up. Because Jesus is going to be like, Jen, remember on January 23rd? Yesterday was Sunday. Remember on January 22nd when you was at church? You was doing blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, what had happened was he don't want to hear that. I stay focused on what the prize is. And that's the part too. I stay focused on making sure I'm getting what I need to be able to survive. Because we just talked about the work. The Bible say, study to show thyself approved. I can't keep on saying I love Jesus and I can't like quote nothing and help you out to encourage you. How that look? You know, I can't say the Lord gonna make a way and I'm just blowing through my money. He can make a way. He will make a way, but after a while, he gonna let you fall on your bun. And when you fall on your bun, you be like, I thought God was helping you.
Have to be doing your work.
You got to do your work. You got to
be. Yes, it's so important. So
yeah. This one says, I tried therapy and it didn't help.
Yeah, that's been my story. Very transparent. I am a therapist. I love the work that I do. But there are a lot of therapists out here that just don't know how to do the job. Let's just call the spade the spade. They are not doing their professional development. They are not culturally aware. They are not following any type of pattern. They are collecting checks. So the likelihood that you have run into one of them is high. Okay, that's on this end. Let me tell you something. You got to come real broken to therapy. Mm-hmm. I say to my clients from step one, therapy, the gym, and the bedroom are the most vulnerable places in the world. And the only way it works and works well is if you are willing to let go of your mask. So if you walked into that space and you were not willing to lay down all of your masks, then no, it would not have worked for you. So I'm taking responsibility for poor therapists on this end, but I'm also asking you, were you actually ready? Did you lay down your mask when you came in there? Were you willing to be exposed? It requires exposure. It is an autopsy, if you will, while you're alive. And so I think many people that catches them off guard. And for years, that is what caught me off guard. Now, I ran into just really poor therapists, but then I started to notice you're real controlling, Dr. Marcie. You're real controlling in that seat. You like to drive. You're not driving. Okay? Step back. Yeah. So that as well, if we're coming in here with like, I already know what I need. I already know. Right? It may not work. So I want just do that self-work, examine, was I willing to be exposed in front of a stranger in order to get healing? Because if the answer is no, then I can understand why it might not have helped.
Can we sit there for a second? I like this. You said therapy, you got to be open, because if you're not honest, it's going to do you more damage than good, because they only help what you give them. One.
It will.
We could catch lies, we could catch inconsistencies and call you on it, but it's just easier for you to why are we going to waste time and money? Okay. That's one.
It's a waste of time.
Waste of time, money. The gym, you got, baby, you either going to do the work Oh, you're not gonna do the work. It ain't.
And you're gonna look crazy on the treadmill. You're just gonna look crazy.
You're just gonna look crazy.
Let it go.
But when you stay consistent, you start to see the results, and it's a
benefit.
That's right. Okay? The bedroom. I'm not even gonna go there, sis.
But you know what I mean. Those are the three. And I say that to clients all the time. They are the same. And let me tell you something. In those three situations, you have to pick the perfect partner, or else it will go wrong.
Come on. And I want to add the doctor to that.
Say, yeah.
Because you go to your doctor and you'll be like, oh yeah, it's just bothering me. But if you're not doing the full story, they can't diagnose you correctly. And sometimes, yes, they do ignore our population with some things. But we also have to be able to go in there to advocate for ourselves. Hey, I'm paying my insurance to be able to come see you, or I'm paying out of pocket, whatever it is. X, Y, and Z is happening. Run another test. It still is off. Do this, do that. You have to be able to advocate for yourself in those situations. And if we're not being honest.
You do. And you have to be able to honestly, one of the things that I do, session one, and clients are always thrown off. I'm going to be like, by the end of this session, I'm going to ask you, is this a good fit for you? And you can say no, right? I said, and if you say no, this session is free, right? Because we're not going to waste either of our times.
Absolutely.
With that said, if I feel like it's not a good fit for me, if I notice that this isn't vibing, I might say no. But I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that sometimes, Jen, I know you know, sometimes these therapists are just not good. So if you try therapy and it didn't help, assess some of these things that Jen and I have talked about before we write it off as a whole, because the way it is designed with to work. A lot of the work that I do is just patterned after the principles that are in scripture. It is designed to work. But if you have run into, a poor therapist, it is quite possible that just put a bad taste in your mouth. Please come back. We're here willing and waiting to support you in a safe space. So
it's so important to do your research.
Yes.
And even like asking the person questions before you do set up that appointment to get to know. Like when I choose a doctor, I'm asking the staff, hey, how is she? How's her bedside manner? Things of that sort. And with a therapist, I also share, like with a barber or a stylist, when you find somebody that just gets you, they get you. Like you can sit in that chair, you ain't got to say nothing. They just know how to work it out. And you come out like, yeah, they did that.
I'm adding hairstylists to my list. You got to be real vulnerable.
You got to be vulnerable. They can mess you up. You saw that scene in Tina Turner. She got the hair wash. Like, oh, her hair coming out. They had to get wigs.
I didn't even need to. I've had my own scenes.
It's so important to just be mindful of that. And know that if it doesn't work, do try again, try with somebody else. And a lot of us have gotten into some relationships and friendships. We talking about the bedroom now.
That's right.
It did not work out. We didn't give up.
We don't write that off, do we?
We didn't write that off. We said we can stretch that. It's just a little bit better.
It takes some time.
Yes. And even in that, I had that conversation of, we're talking about Jesus, but we're also talking about the natural side of things, that sort. And sometimes we go into situations with these expectations that they're going to be able to rock our world. You did. And we get in there, we didn't rock nowhere, Nowhere. And what happens is it's a conversation that still has to be had of what it is that you need, what it is that they need. And it goes in line with those love languages. I was just telling somebody, if my love language is acts of service, and I'm just giving you acts of service, that's nice. But if that's not how you feel loved, you're like, this girl don't love me. I like physical touch. And I'm not touching them because I'm just giving them acts of service. So you have to find out what it is that works for that person so that you can do that. And they find out what works for you so they can do that.
Yes. And I love that. And I think it also gives clients that empowerment to come in and recognize that as that therapist is interviewing you, you interviewing them. You have just as much power. Ask them questions. People have asked me so many questions. Some I opt to answer, some I opt not to answer. But when it comes to my style and how I approach therapy, you're going to hear that. Yes. So you need to be asking. This is a process that you're looking for. And hey, also recognize they may not check off all the boxes on your list, but if they're willing to grow with you, if they're willing to navigate with you, if they're willing to let that power balance be equal, and if they don't need to be the expert in the room, then you may have found a winner there. So don't give up hope.
It's so good. I was talking to a friend, she felt like the therapist was more like trying to be a friend. That's a conversation I had too. Because they're not there to be a friend. They're going to help guide you through life's
Yeah,
life journey. And you have to have that conversation too of like,
you
I'm not
have
looking for
to.
friends, I got enough of them. I'm looking for somebody that's really going to help me in my stuff that I'm going on. I'm going to challenge me, that's going to help
That's
me.
right.
I was saying, like, if we have our powwows and you get more from me than you are from your therapist, we got a problem. We need to find you somebody else.
That's
You
right.
know, so being open with that and knowing what it is that you want. As we get older and we mature, we find out this is what I will go for, this is what I won't go for. This is what, all right,
Absolutely.
I'll consider that, but nah, I'm not considering that. And it's the same with those things that are so valuable to our lives, because we're talking about life or death, right? We started talking about how like we can feel love, we can feel appreciated. But if I'm battling some things, because the battlefield really is in the mind, I'm
That's
going to
right.
give up. I'm nothing. I'm not going to make it. I am this. I am that. No, the Bible says I'm the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. I am the lender, not the borrower. So if I'm speaking those things and believing those things, it's still a process to get there. And when I am
Mhm.
a little shaky in it, I need somebody to help pull me up and keep me up there. Like, no, sis, you there. No, bro, you there. And things of that sort. So finding that person
Agreed.
that's going to be able to help you do just that.
Yes, agreed.
So good. Let me see. What's another one?
Mhm.
Um, I just need to snap out of it.
Right. Maybe you may just need to snap out of it. But what does that process look like? Right.
Yeah,
Because we both know it isn't just a snap. And also, I love my Dr. Phil go to. How is that working for you?
yeah.
Do you find you got to snap out of it every day? Are
Mm,
you snapping out of it quite regularly?
come on.
Because if so, what is the it and why does it keep drawing you back in?
Yeah.
Those are questions that we would explore in therapy. And so you may have skeptics that say, well, can I explore this on my own? Yes, why haven't you been? Right? Why haven't you been? And I say that like, because yes, absolutely. And even when I get clients, I tell them I'm training you to be your own therapist. I do not
Mm-hmm,
keep a client forever. That's not my space. But
mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm.
fact that you haven't been says that you
Yeah.
might need somebody to come alongside you and help you identify the it's,
Mm-hmm,
analyze your snap, and
mm-hmm.
help you get those two together so that when you do need to just snap out of it, it's a one-time thing. We're not doing this every
Yes.
single day, right?
Yes.
That takes time. That takes a partner in that journey. So that's my thoughts
And
there.
what are you snapping up? I like that because sometimes we're drinkers
Mhm.
and it was socially and now it is
Yep.
emotionally
Yep.
and now it is a norm. And how are
Mhm.
you finding when you are drinking? How far can you go? Oh no, I can tolerate it. I can hold myself. I can hold my liquor, and we find out that you really can't. It's of concern. Are you smoking? Depending
Yeah.
on what you're smoking and things of that sort. And we find these different things. Are we just out in these streets? We talked
Has
about the
it
last time.
become an addiction for us?
And,
Yeah.
being mindful of what these things are too, because sometimes we think I just go to God and He'll forgive me. Yes, He will. But what's causing me to keep on doing those things?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Jen. I think you've hit on something great. And what we have found, and so anybody that might be listening that may be struggling with this, what we have found is you're going to it because it's comfortable,
Hmm.
right? As
Hmm.
toxic as it is. You
Yes.
done made up that bed and you done slipped on in and it's done become comfortable for you,
Yes.
right? And so in therapy, what we explore is the purpose of the pillow, the purpose
Yes.
of the sheet, the
Yes.
comforter. Why do
Yes.
you have all of these components? What are
Mhm.
they giving to you? And what is
Yes.
a healthy replacement that we
Yes.
can put in there,
Come
right?
on.
What is something helpful? So the goal is not to strip you of the
Mhm.
things that bring you joy.
Mhm.
It is to replace it with something that can bring you joy as well as give you hope
Yes.
and propel you forward as
Mm.
opposed to holding you back. So yes, you might just need to snap out of it, but we're going to work on the snap and the it, right? We need to
Yes.
really
Yes.
understand that so we know what that process can look like and how it can be healthy as we move forward.
I
Right.
love that. And as you said that, the thought came to me of come as you are, right? They'd be like, come as you are, doesn't mean you're tired and things like that. So you're absolutely right. Um, come as you are means your heart, where you are in life and things like that. And you go to God.
Yes.
And what happens is all those things aren't bad. There are some things that he chooses to use to say, oh, I could use
Yes.
you in that area because you're not afraid to say, for
Yes.
God I live, for God I die. But it's this other part that I gotta get you to knock down. I can't have you, ready to cut everybody ear off. You
Yes.
know how it went in the Bible. We can't do that all the time. We gotta have a
Yes.
conversation. We gotta write a letter, okay?
Yes.
We want to help other people. So again, and that coming as you are, coming as you are, flawed and all, to therapy. to the gym, to the bedroom, things to start to really show that sign of intimacy and really finding out who you are. Intimacy is more than just being naked, friends.
Yes.
Doing a do. It's really, who are you?
It
You don't
is.
have to put on your cape right now. Just, who is Jennifer?
That's
Who's
right.
Marcie? What ticks Marcie? What ticks Jennifer? What shouldn't I do? But what can I do that's going to push you into that which you want to be or where you're called to go? So again, snapping out of it, making sure that we're not snapping out of what it is that we're called to do, because some of these things that we're going through are for the testimony. Because as you share, if I've been through something, I can help you out through that a little bit better. I know it don't feel good to forgive them. I know it don't feel good to see them. I know you don't like how they treated you, but baby, let me tell you, that forgiveness is for you. And when you get yourself, you feel at ease, you feel at peace, and you want that for yourself. So snapping
That's
out,
right.
again, making sure that you're still coming out where you're okay. This is not too bad.
That's right. That is right. I love it. I love it.
I want to hit on depression just as a second.
Okay.
Because this one says depression is the result of sin. I just need to repent. Want us to define what depression is, what it can look like, and is it a sin?
Depression is not a sin, right? It's a state of being. It's a state of mind. And I'm gonna say that absolutely, right? I am very, very careful of what I say in absolutes. But it is a state of being. It is a state of mind in which your being, it feels crushed in a way, right? So low, so disconnected that there's no getting up. Can you get here as a result of what you might consider sin? It is possible. But I think it is important to know that depression is also a clinical disorder, right? So having depressive symptoms is not the same thing as having depression. Not wanting to get out of bed for a week is not the same thing as having depression. Depression is clinical. It is a disorder, major depressive disorder, in which people struggle with the inability to connect, the inability to engage, the inability. So they are lacking something chemically, they are lacking something as far as their makeup is. And so from a clinical perspective, it is a disorder very similar to addiction as a disorder, very similar to anxiety being a disorder, right? So there are people in the world that lived with anxious thoughts. There are people in the world that live with depressive symptoms. They do not have generalized anxiety disorder, and they do not have major depressive disorder. So first, let's separate those two, right? If we are talking about the clinical disorder of major depressive disorder, then no, it is so important. Neither one of them are sins, but it's so important to recognize that the latter cannot be dealt with alone. It is something that needs clinical guidance. So very similar to if you got cancer, I would hope that you would seek somebody out to deal with that. This is the same thing we're asking you here, because there is actually a whole blueprint for how we might support you. That includes therapy, that includes medication, pharmacology, as we call it. It includes so many elements, because what we're trying to do is help to balance a brain that has become imbalanced. And if you are noticing that you have had prolonged symptoms, 6 months or longer, not as a result of something traumatic or not as a result, then you might be dealing with clinical depression, right? And so in those particular cases, it's so important for you to understand the urgency to get help, because the likelihood that you are functioning in a healthy way is very low. The likelihood that you are harming yourself and others by not getting help is actually very high. Now, let's get to this sin and repentance thing. Listen, that ain't how that works, okay? In any sound theologian, and listen, if I got some theologians in the place, go ahead and holler out and please call me and challenge me. But that is not how this works, okay? We're talking about an active rebellion against. That is not what depression is. You not being able to get out of bed is not an active rebellion against God and what he's asked you to do. You not getting out of bed is you needing to be like, what's wrong? I need help. It's a cry for help. And the God that we serve sees you in that pit. He came down to earth, took on a physical body to know exactly why you can't get out of that bed. How dare you not call on him and seek help? How dare you write this off as a sin you need to repent for? And how dare you, man of God, woman of God, who's standing in the pulpit telling them that, have the nerve to do that, right? That is not how we operate. So I'm talking to the people that don't have clinical. I've already talked to that. But for those of you that are just struggling, you are just in the pit. Do you understand that Jesus sits at the pit, waiting to pull you up out of that pit? He uses therapists. He uses friends. He uses just a little breeze from outside sometimes. But he is certainly not sitting over there trying to condemn you and telling you that you're going to hell. That's not the God we serve. That's not how he works. So if that is going through your mind right now, I come against that in the name of Jesus, because it is a lie from the pit of hell. It is what the enemy is trying to use to destroy you right now. So if that is you right now in this moment, you better speak to that right now in the name of Jesus. That is not from God. That is not biblical. That is not how we roll in this place. And it's not how I want you to roll. You do have to speak to that. And I don't care if you just think it in your mind. I don't care if all you can do is whisper it, but you have got to speak that guilt away from you, because it is that guilt, Jen, that keeps us from asking for help. It is that shame that keeps us from asking for help. When we go back to the Garden of Eden and we notice that Adam and Eve are covering up, and God says, who told you that? It was the enemy that told them that they should feel shame and covered up. Who told you that? I might have to ask you right now if you're sitting in that pit. Because I don't care what form it came through. I don't care if it came through your shepherd. It is from the enemy. We are not designed to live in that space of shame. And so I speak against that right now, because it is that. It ain't just depression. We know it. We know we got people in the pulpit hollering about all of these mental health disorders are sins, autism, schizophrenia. Child, God became flesh. Took nails in his hand to understand the very thing that you're going through. He is not condemning you. So it is so important for us as Christians to speak against that lie. To speak against it. And we have to do it actively. We have to do it with love. We have to do it actively. If we hear our leaders being incorrect about that, it is our job to correct them in love, right? And to remind them, hey, no. That's not how the Bible has dealt with that. We've seen shame. Jeremiah, Elijah had done all of this work for the kingdom, defeated all those kings. And at the end, he found himself in a pit of depression near that tree. And do you think God left him? No, he did not. He did not. The Bible tells us of Elijah's story. He tells us that he was able to pass his gift on to another prophet. So there is hope. It's all throughout the Bible where God has met us in those pits and shown us a way out. So I do encourage you to really, really be very careful. If you are speaking that to anybody, that we're careful with our words. And listen, I hate to have to preach, but honey, that hit me. It hit me because there is somebody suffering right now under this lie. And so as a mental health professional, but mainly as a woman of God, I speak against that. So short answer, no, it's not a sin. You don't need to repent, but you might need help. You definitely, you might need help.
And friends, if you need help, it's okay to reach out for that help.
Yes.
First things first, this is January. Jesus and therapy, okay? We go to Jesus. We can pray through some things, but some things we have to talk out, because there are some things that have happened since childhood. There are some things that happened just yesterday, but it really hit me, you know?
Yes.
It overwhelmed me because I had some other stuff that I hadn't dealt with. So
yes.
it's okay. It's okay. No, you don't have to go to therapy forever. You go as needed in the beginning,
Yeah,
Um, but if you know it needs to continue, keep going.
that's right.
Your car, you go, you get it checked out. It's like, oh, something's still going on. We got to go back again.
It's
Oh, but
okay. It's okay to take some months off and go back.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, to go as needed, friends.
that's right.
And if somebody else finds out, you won't be ruined. Why? Because you're investing in you. You're investing in you
You're
to make you
invested in
feel
you,
good.
and God is invested in you,
Yes.
right? He's preserving you. He's preserving you.
So good. Dr. Marcie, what's something that you want to close us out with? This was good.
Oh, good child. First of all, I'm so that was just such a good. What is something that I want to close us out with? um, I think at the end of the day, I just want others to know that life, health, the pursuit of happiness and hope, it happens in community. It does not happen in isolation. It does not happen by yourself, right? It happens in community. So if even if you just start by talking to your friend, even if you just start by talking to a family member before you can get to a therapist, build your community. Build your community. As people, we are designed to be in relationship. But Dr. Marcie, it's going to hurt. It will. They will disappoint me. They will. And you still are going to be better off because you have built community. So for those of you that may never get to a counselor chair, if you can get to a relationship and you can get to a community, that's what I encourage you to do, because that's what I'm going to continue to encourage you to do, even in that therapeutic space. So yeah, those are my words. That's what I want to promote is community.
Yes. Friends, I hope you enjoyed tonight. I enjoyed it. I always love having good conversations. We've been blessed to have some great guests that come on and share some
That
good
is good.
conversation. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
I
you. This has been such a pleasure. I've been so caught off guard, but I loved it. I just feel like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Where are we going? But I love it. I thrive in these spaces, Jen. It's just such an honor to know you and just to be in this space with you. So thank you so much for having me.
I thank you so much. May you have a great, great evening and continue to have a great school year as it begins up for your new students. May they
Yes.
be armed and dangerous to be ready.
I hope so.
Thank you so much. May you have a great evening.
All right. Thank you.
Oh,
Bye.
yes. Oh, friends, that was so amazing. The amazing Dr. Marcie. So y'all know I get my bag when we had conversations talking about Jesus. And when we talk about therapy, two things in one, I had a blast, friends. So first things first, if you need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody. It's not a bad thing. We are the strong people to so many people. Who's strong for you? Make sure that you can connect with someone. Let me see. She said, we just experienced a little town, a little bit of First Lady Tony, a little bit of Pastor Marcus, and a lot of Jesus. Awesome, Marcie. Oh, very nice, very nice. Good info therapy is important. It really is. It really is. Thank you, Lord, for loving us even in depression. Friends, whatever state we find ourselves in, guess what? He loves us. He loves us. And He has equipped people to be able to help support us through what's going on. All right? Mm. Hey, Jen, tune in late, but good facts. Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love each and every one of you. Friends, don't forget our quote of the day. Mm. It's okay to have Jesus and a therapist too. Why? Because you don't have to do this thing alone. I also want to say whoop whoop again because today is our 100th episode. 100th episode. Oh, oh. Yep, that's all I got for it. But I'm so truly grateful for you tuning in, liking, sharing, commenting, and coming back again because that means that what we're doing over here is amazing. I'm always going to toot my horn because wow, we came out with a book chosen for this period planner and journal. Be sure to pick it up. It's available on our website. I am overwhelmed with the support. I'm continuing to hear good things. A lady in my church stopped me. She said, my daughter got one of your books. Can I get one? It's nice. I said, oh, thank you. Because I ain't going to hold y'all. I haven't really marketed. It's been friends. It's been you. And I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you for your support. Be sure to join us next week as we will have Levon Nichols for Say something good. Say something good. Friends, this is the beginning of the year. First things first, last week we want to wake up. This week we want to know that we have Jesus in therapy. And next week we want to say something good. We want to proclaim an amazing year. Whatever it is that we're hoping and dreaming to do, we can do it. Why? Because I believe in you. You believe in you too, okay? This too shall pass. Yes, it gets hard. Find somebody to talk to, get that support that you need because you are not alone. Okay? I love y'all for real. I think that's all my announcements. Nope, one more. If you want to suggest a topic or a guest, be sure to email me at info@chozencounselors.com. I am always open to receiving some new people. We are booked up, starting to confirm guests for April, so we are moving. But again, if you know of anybody that would like to come on and share, that's going to give my friends some good information because I value my friends coming in and tuning in, okay? That's going to give my friends good information and help us to be the best version of ourselves. Be sure to share that information with me. I do love you all for real. Until next time, good night.
Friends, we thank you for joining Jen Cares this week. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Unable to watch us live? Be sure to find us on your favorite podcast platform. You can also visit our website, chozencounselors.com. That's chosen with a Z, so that you can stay in the know and most of all, never miss a show. If you found value in this episode, we'd appreciate you sharing it with a friend. Most of all, be sure to tune in for our next episode next Monday at 8 p.m. right here as we specialize in bringing the community to you.